Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and it is November 4th, 2022, and we are going to do a Q&A out here in the lovely fall weather. We'll see if we get anybody on. I'm not sure if my announcement post went up or not. Doesn't seem like it did. But let's just start talking anyway. Things that are coming up. Thailand, 5-day seminar. This should be the coolest seminar we've ever done. We'll be at an aerial retreat location that has just been built. It's one of my former aerial students who used to come to my aerial studio in Los Angeles, has built a brand new training facility and hotel in Thailand, and we will be the first people to use it. We obviously won't be using the aerial stuff, but we will be using it for staff, mace, and club. This will be an expansion of our previous 2-day workshop, so we will be adding 3 days of content to this workshop. It'll be 8 hours a day. The format is really cool, very proud of it. It is start with staff, go to mace, go to club, and repeat that cycle over and over and over again. And usually each block is about 50 to 55 minutes long with a 5-minute transition so that we can move through all the learning content very quickly. The layout of the seminar is a neurological trick designed to make you learn faster by you seeing the same type of information from 3 different pieces, from 3 different apparati, repeated in a row over and over and over again. That is our most important thing that we're going to be doing there, but we will be starting. Our staff stuff is all observe, orient, decide, act staff stuff. You don't have to have any experience, but it would really help if you had swung some mace and some club before so that your hands are strong enough to deal with the speed of staff. Think of staff as super fast and infinitely complex by the end of the week, not day one, by the end of the week. And club as being super heavy, mace being in the middle, and all 3 of those ideas feeding the same most basic human movement patterns that you can do. Club, mace, and staff are the basis of all athleticism. So that 5-day seminar is coming up. I think the information for that seminar is on FlowShala.com. We're also going to have a London seminar coming up, which will be the 2-day version of staff, mace, and club in February 2022. And then we will be doing an Italy seminar with Maurizio of Hydrocore fame, the guy who designed the Hydrocore. We will be going to a small town in Italy for 5 days of training on the beach. We're not really clear what the format on that is going to be yet, because that's going to be a bunch of shared instructor. Maurizio will be teaching Hydrocore, great instructor, fantastic guy. Ex-world-class kite surfer. Guy's invented a lot of equipment and taught around the world. Very interesting to hang out with, very interesting to learn from. Also, Will Safford of BJJ Fanatics will be there. If you watch this channel, you might have seen clips of me doing Q&A on his Seek Order in Progress podcast. Order in Progress, am I saying that right? Can't always remember. I think it was his Order in Progress, BJJ podcast. Will Safford is one of those guys you really want to learn from at some point. He's an Atos brown belt, and he travels around the world. He used to work for ADCC, the best jiu-jitsu tournament in the world. I think it's every 2 years. I've talked to him a bunch about that. I love hanging out with and talking to that guy. They are doing what they're calling Italy Fit. It's going to be a 5-day thing. I will be teaching there with them, and I'll probably be teaching clubs. We'll be doing something with BJJ. Maurizio will be doing something with Hydrocore, and there's going to be a bunch of other instructors. The point of all of these things is adventure. One of the things that I advocate for a lot is adventure, and I define that very simply as going someplace you've never gone, meeting somebody you've never met, and talking about something you've never talked about. Very simple idea. Adventure could be going to the town next to you that you've never been in the Midwest, because there's towns every 10 miles and nobody's ever been to the town next to them, which is always hilarious. So all of our seminars, I like people to think of them as adventures, as mini heroes' journeys. And if you're familiar with the concept of the hero's journey from Hero with 1,000 Faces, one of the things that you need to do is leave home. That's like step one, right? Leave home, go someplace, accept the call to adventure, meet people, have them help you through something you didn't know about, right? And you complete the circle by going back home. So one of the things that I do for myself, and we've talked about this a lot on this channel, is I try to go to at least 2 things like that every year. One of the things that I did this year was I went to Atlanta in, what was that, September? To go to a public speaking seminar. Doesn't have to be about training. It could be about dirt bikes. It could be about horses. It could be about building houses. It could be about earthships. It could be about anything. But you should do that at least twice a year. So what I'm trying to do is offer seminars in cool places so that people can turn learning into a fun activity, because it should be fun. I don't think I've ever taken like a real vacation in my life. The only things that I have done is go places and train and come back. And I love to do that, and I've done it all over the world. I myself will be going to Jared, I'm going to say your last name wrong. Jared is teaching, he's one of my friends. I'll come back to this. He's teaching Krav Maga seminar in Israel, I believe, in May. I'm going to go to that, right? I've already done Krav Maga. I've done Krav Maga instructor training before, but going to Israel, fun. So it meets my need for adventure. We go someplace we've never gone. We meet somebody. We learn something. We come back. We always come back a different person, and that is the point of life. Okay, I think we've talked about all the fun stuff for now. Release date for the overweight program. First question, Pythonic inertia. Pythonic inertia. I'm going to have to look up what Pythonic inertia is, because I don't know what that means off the top of my head. Feels like Pythagorean theorem and inertia slammed together, but I'm not quite sure. Release date for the overweight program. It is January. So what we are doing is we are taking all of the programs that I write and we're filling out the master plan. The master plan is, it starts with exercises for overweight individuals. So people can start from any level, and there's a progression to that. That is mostly filmed. We're going to try and film the rest of it here in a couple of weeks, maybe in Nashville, because it should also be an adventure. Then there's a second section after that called Intro to Kettlebells, which is another section to help people prepare to get familiar with kettlebells in more depth. And then that leads to the swing program, which is already out. That leads to the clean and press program, which is already out. That leads to the Turkish get up program, which is already out. So when we started this, we started with what I considered the most important program for the greatest number of people, which was the swing program, then the clean and press program, then the Turkish get up program, then the intro program. Then we're going to finish the overweight individuals program. But the point of this is that these programs are meant to line up in a series. And then there's a ton of stuff after the Turkish get up program. I don't know if you guys can hear that big tractor rolling down the street or not. Probably not. And then this is going to turn into a 5 to 10 year system so that people can start overweight, go to intro, do swings, do clean and press, do Turkish get up, go into squat program, snatch program, and then it breaks off into metabolic conditioning, monster lift programs, bodybuilding programs, and all that stuff. So we're laying out a shooting schedule for the next 2 years, and we're going to keep filling in all these pieces so that this can all stack up eventually go into the app, which is also being worked on. So yes, release date, think January. Right now in edit is the two-handed club program. So what we wanted was Turkish get up to be out by the end of September. We were obviously 2 weeks late with that. We wanted two-hand club to be out by Halloween. Obviously that's not happening. These programs are huge and there are thousands of videos to edit. So I always think that I'm better than I am and I think I can do it faster. But now we're shooting for Thanksgiving, which seems much more realistic. And the two-handed club program, think of that as probably being at least 40% bigger than the Turkish get up program. For those of you who are doing Turkish get up, you'll know that it's a big program with lots of videos. It's a lot of editing. It's a lot of shooting. It's a lot of editing. But the whole point is that we're not writing short programs because life is long. So I had this question this week in the comments section. Why don't I write 6-week programs? And the answer is because you're going to live for another 70 years or something, and a 6-week program, for the most part, is bullshit. Nobody got to the Olympics in a 6-week program. Nobody even trained for a track season in 6 weeks, right? Nobody trained for a high school sports in 6 weeks, right? Programs should be long because life is long and we want you to be good at things. Therefore, a 6-week program is an intro program to get you to another program. Even the intro to kettlebell program that I wrote could be repeated for a year. You could do it for 6 weeks, or it could be a year-long program. That's something we're always trying to do when I write, is always write as much value as possible into any one idea. So the swing program, you could do it once, but you really should do it for 2 or 3 years. The clean and press program, you could do it once through, but you should really do it with at least 5 weights, because that's how you get good at things. Olympic lifters, that's how you get good at things. Think about somebody who did like middle school track, and then they went to high school track, and then they went to collegiate track, right? They have somewhere in the range of 10 to 12 years of training before they would even be eligible to get into training for something like the Olympics, right? And then there would be years of training on top of that. So I'm not writing 6-week programs for now, because I think that they're less valuable than teaching people the most important things. We will write 6-week programs, which will be our MACE programs, but they are going to be meant to stack on top of the 10 levels of two-handed club program that we will have out. Currently out there's 3. We're adding another 7, which are even bigger. They go from 20 minutes to 32 minutes long. Right? There's 10 levels of that, and you should do it with probably 10 weights. It should take you 5 years to get through the whole thing, because it's really meant to be the Olympic lifting program of heavy club swinging. There will be 6-week programs. They will be MACE, and they will be designed to teach people specific flows in a short period of time, and then there will be another one, and you will learn those in series. So you won't be done with MACE. You will be done with that movement in MACE. Here we go. Steve Blackshaw, heavy club question. Do you actively squeeze your glutes during movements, or are they naturally supposed to engage? They should naturally engage, depending on the movement. So if you're doing something like a straight front to back pullover with 2 hands, go ahead and actively squeeze your glutes the entire time, especially behind you, The heavier the weight, the more important that becomes. If you're doing an inside circle, your glutes should fire back and forth, back and forth, back and forth on their own. If your glutes are not firing, you need to drop weight and go back and repeat the training again, and then go up in weight. If your glutes are not firing on an inside circle and an outside circle, ba-ba, 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 you need to go back and do something else. If people's glutes aren't, let's talk about mills. So if you try to squeeze your glutes the entire time, you can, but it would hinder the way you rotate. You focus on your inside circle, your outside circle, and your shield cast to train your glutes to fire, and then you go to the inside pendulum and the outside pendulum to give you more hip snap, to give you more glute squeeze. So the only move I really think that you squeeze your glutes for the entire time is a straight front to back pullover. Your glutes should fire in sequence with the movement of the club for pretty much everything else. If you're going to squeeze your glutes, you squeeze on the catch when you are decelerating a weight. So think inside pendulum. When you catch the weight, squeeze your glutes. On an outside pendulum, when you catch the weight, squeeze your glutes to decelerate the weight. Squeeze your glutes on the deceleration, the same way you would do it on, say, a kettlebell swing. You would squeeze your glutes at the top of the movement. On a kettlebell clean, you would squeeze your glutes on the catch. And on a snatch, you would squeeze your glutes at the catch when the weight is decelerating. I think I answered that question. Yeah, that's probably a pretty good answer to that. Steve Blackshaw. They should naturally engage. If they're not naturally engaging, you need to drop weight, or you need to start adding in the single arm club program, which I fully haven't defined yet. So It's hard for me to tell people to do that. Anthony, greetings from Poland. Hello, Anthony. Mark Artigas Vale. Question. I love it when people label question. I've just started your two-hand heavy club program, and I love it. Will you do in the future a single-hand heavy club program? Yes, definitely. The single arm heavy club program is really, really big, and there's two versions of it. The first version is the one that absolutely everybody has to do, that focuses on inside circle, outside circle, and shield cast. I just had a question in the comment section this morning about people were shocked that you would stay with one weight for 6 months. That's because the program is really long. It's really, really long. So when I train actors, you stay with one weight for 6 months because you're doing inside circles, pendulums. There's a whole giant progression, mathematical progression, because it's not your muscles that you're so worried about training with single arm club. It is your tendons and your ligaments. So most people, their muscles are much stronger than their tendons and their ligaments. And it's not just the tendons and the ligaments in your hand, in your wrist, in your elbow, and in your shoulder, although those are the first ones that people injure when they try to go up in weight too fast. It's also the tendons and ligaments in your spine and in your hip. As you learn to rotate better, as you learn to decelerate weight better, you have to give those things time to catch up. So the single arm programs are long to make sure that you don't get hurt. If you're getting tennis elbow, or if your shoulder hurts, or if your wrist hurts, you have gone up way too fast. And this happens a lot with athletes. People, I think I've got sawdust in my nose from the barn. People who are athletes tend to be much stronger in straight lines from years of something like Olympic lifting, but they are really, so they think that they can go up a lot faster with rotational strength than they can, and a lot of athletes end up giving themselves something like tennis elbow because they refuse to stick to the progression, because athletes are very hard to contain, because that's what makes them athletes. Yes, there will be a program like that. So that is, once again, very much like Olympic lifting. It is a long, drawn-out progression meant to get guys to single arm 30. The final goal is 10 sets of 10 of mills and reverse mills under 7 minutes and 10 seconds for each one of those with a 30-pound club, which is a lot harder than you think. And it's a lot harder to do without ripping your elbow out of the socket than people think it's going to be. So let me tell you what it used to be back when club certifications were running much better 10 years ago. 15-pound club and being able to do what was called a trial by fire was 100 mills and 100 swipes, one club in each hand, and 100 hammer swings, 50 each way, in less than 15 minutes. And that was with a 15-pound club. That was your requirement to be just an instructor, because moving that fast and not getting hurt with a club is very hard for people to do. And then coach was 20 pounds and head coach was 25 pounds. My goals are 30 pounds for men and 20 to 25 pounds for women based on frame size. 5'2" woman, different than a 5'11" woman, because women vary so greatly in size. Yes, so 30 pounds for single hand is very hard for people to attain, and it should take you at least 3.5 years to attain to do it correctly. Now that we have the 8X club system, everybody can get there. Before, almost nobody got to the single arm 25. Almost nobody. You could count those guys on your hand who could really do it 10 years ago. Now there's a lot more of them. But it was very hard for a very long time. That's why I wrote my super long progression the way I did it. And that's why I've worked with 8X to get a very specific type of club with very specific weight jumps so that we can guarantee everybody get there. We can make the whole world stronger if we just program it right. Sounds like Mark listens to the Art of Manliness podcast. I've never listened to it. I've heard about it, but I just have so rare time. I listened to Order in Progress from Will Safford, and I listened to, what else do listen to some farming podcasts, off-grid living podcasts. And occasionally, when you're traveling, apparently women love to listen to murder killer podcasts about like people dying in national parks and stuff, which I am always horrified by. Sparrow Hawk. Programming question. Any advice for how to fully utilize the micro-loading capability of adjustable kettlebells? Yeah, everything on my website, or everything I talk about. The adjustable kettlebells solve all the problems, right? It used to be you had a 16K and a 24K. And so in order to get people to jump from 16K clean and press to 24 clean and press, training had to have a lot of tricks in it, right? You had to become a really, really, really smart and crafty trainer to get people to make that huge jump. Then we got a 20, it got way easier. Then we got 18, and we got 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Suddenly, you could just go right up through the program. And if you look at my clean and press program, that's what it is. The micro loading of the kettlebell means that we can start anybody with that program at almost any level and get them to a high level because we can make those 1K jumps or half K jumps. So now anybody can become very, very, very strong because you can micro load kettlebells the same way that you can micro load an Olympic lifting bar, right? Olympic lifting bars, you have your half-pound plates and you can do your math super precisely. With kettlebells, what you tend to do is you tend to have a wave of intensity, so you have a heavy light cycle. You have one cycle when you get about 60% through, you start with a heavier weight but a lower volume, and it chases, and they go back and forth. So I'm unclear on what the question about that really is. The more weights you have available and the smaller the jump, the more guarantee you can have that you can accomplish any task and that you can do it without injury, which was not how it used to be. In 2006, 2007, the injury rate was not great for kettlebells because people were trying to make jumps that their tendons and their ligaments were not meant to make. The faster you move, the more force a kettlebell produces. The same thing with a club. So speed is also something that has to be controlled. And if you really want to make people superheroes, then you do it by micro-loading kettlebells. It's almost impossible not to turn people into the Winter Soldier at this point. And just get them into, now we can really get people into their 10 minutes of double long cycle and just create absolute endurance monsters. And we can really get into something like half marathon long cycle training now because we can micro load so much. And then we just have to control the rate. If anybody knows of a new good kettlebell rate timer, the last one that I used to use for years stopped being updated and it disappeared off my phone. And I don't know anybody who's found a new kettlebell rate timer. That means rate per minute. So 6 reps per minute. Every 10 seconds a beep goes off, but then 7 reps per minute, every 9 seconds a beep goes off, and be able to adjust that up into the 25-ish reps per minute, which is super duper duper fast. The fast speed for snatches used to be 20 reps per minute, but now you see some of the best guys in the world pushing 23, which is insane. But if anybody knows of a new kettlebell timer, please let me know. I desperately need one because my long cycle training is suffering at this point. Forward fold question. My lower back gets sore from forward folds, attempting to stretch my hamstrings. Should I continue forward fold or do a different stretch that keeps the lower back straight? I don't think your lower back needs to be straight. I think it needs to be round. That's me. As a martial artist and somebody who does aerial arts, falling and doing rolls is key to not dying. There are a bunch of things you can do to help you work on your forward folds. You could do flat back Jefferson curls on a box to help you load your hamstrings. So let's see, forward fold, the easiest possible one. Hold for 2 minutes with bent legs and your hands flat on the ground. Straighten your legs, let it move into your back. Hold for 2 minutes with your hands will float wherever they need to float. So think bent legs first, straight legs second. then feet 18 inches of wall, tailbone against the wall, forward fold from there, change the angle of attack. After that, you should go into a plow because you do need at some point to train a rounded spine in order to be able to do things like forward shoulder rolls, rear shoulder rolls, etc. And then after that, I would go to front split on each side. So there are a bunch of different ways to isolate out the hamstrings. I usually start with the forward fold because it's hard to tell in the beginning whether it's people's hamstrings or their back or their calf that is tight. And so I tend to do it in a series like that, so you hit every possible option. The other thing you can do is get a pair of inclines and do your forward folds on inclines for 2 minutes to stretch out your calves while you're in the specific position, and then take 2 minutes and step off of it and go back to flat foot and go even further into it. Here's a question. Sparrowhawk, programming question. Oh, this is an extension of the how to fully utilize the microloading capability of adjustable bells. For instance, this is an extension of that question from Sparrowhawk. For instance, when I get to the density cycle of 10 minutes of snatch, I plan on to just add a little weight and keep it at 10 minutes. Don't do that. You can do that. If you have a half-pound increment, then sure, do that. But now you have to question your rate, Sparrowhawk. How fast are you going in that 10 minutes? So when you do your volume cycle, build up to 20 sets of 5, then you collapse it down to 10 sets of 10, right? At that point, you should be doing about 1 rep every 3 seconds or 20 reps per minute. You can just jump up in weight, but you should also add 2K and start that whole process over so that you have a heavy and a light. So if you went from 16 to 16.5, then your heavy day would be 18 and you would do a volume cycle, or it could be 20K and do a volume cycle. So you would be alternating then 1 day a week with your heavier weight, building up your volume cycle and doing your density cycle again, and that lower weight adding speed. But what you're gonna find out if you just try to add a half K and keep that speed, it's not gonna last very long before you start to break down and you won't be able to keep that speed. You might be able to make it for like 4 weeks, right? But then at that 4 weeks, you're probably gonna tweak something probably either in your elbow or in your hand or in the front of your shoulder from decelerating the weight. So the whole point of running the volume cycle and the density cycle is it's intentionally supposed to slow you back down. So you ramped way up and your intensity got really high, then it fell off. Then you started ramping up your intensity again. I would really run volume and density cycles with probably 3 to 5 weights, then go back down to the lightweight and then add a half K and then work on speed with that half K add. We all are trying to find ways to cheat the system and get better. Like 90% of my training is years of me trying to figure out how to cheat the system better and better and better over and over and over again, and figuring out what things you can cheat and what things you can't cheat without getting hurt. But yeah, so what I would do is do volume cycle, density cycle, go up in weight, volume cycle, density cycle with 5 weights, then go back down to that first weight, then add half K, then hold speed, then add a half K every time. Because you will be over prepared to, as you move up in weight and you're holding that speed, your tendons and your ligaments need to be over prepared for the force production of holding that speed. Every time you add that half K and you hold that speed, you're adding a massive amount of force. It is not just a half K at the bottom of every rep. Because that weight is accelerating down, it weighs a lot more than a half a K at the bottom. If you slow down, it weighs less than that, but it never gets lighter than a half K. And because it's always falling down, it's always going to be heavy. You can do the whole math on it. It's just not fun math to do. And it almost never holds because nobody ever holds their speed perfectly unless they have a very good metronome. Steve Blackshaw. Steve Blackshaw's got a lot of questions today. Forefoot versus heel strike question. Have you heard of forefoot strike walking? Yes. Some other barefoot enthusiasts promote forefoot strike for walking, also not just for running. Absolutely. You can heel strike like in the modern world when you're walking around. 4-foot walking is something that, everybody who ever did still hunting with a bow learns. You still hunting with a bow, like I learned this when I was like, I don't know, 7. You walk on the balls of your feet because it minimizes noise. So people who are part of traditional hunting cultures learned 4-foot walking, as best I know it, very young, as both hunting and running. Heel striking is just something that we've created from shoes with heels on them. And shoes with heels came in what, the 1500s is a way to make men look taller, right? High heels are originally actually men's shoes. They didn't apply to women until very recently in history. But yes, I have heard of 4-foot walking, and yes, it is something that you do. It works really good off trail. It doesn't work so great in the city. It's just harder to do in the city. It doesn't feel as good in the city. It really feels good on like grass or field or hay fields and whatnot. Everett Harden. Question. I have a Mark Wildman 8X arc on the way. Can I basically run the mill squat program with that implement? I've watched your arc tutorials. Yeah, you could just run the mill squat with arc grip. Arc grip being super wide grip, one hand high, one hand low with elbow up. 100%. Run the program that way. That'll totally work. The whole point of arc grip, as I see it, is that you're directly mimicking specific types of long-handled fighting implements throughout history. The longer the handle, the more control you have over the length of the lever. So you'll see something like Japanese sword. The handle's supposed to be this long, the length of your forearm, so that you have the most control over it. European one-handed swords, obviously very different, but longer handles allow you to control faster and easier for longer periods of time. So arc grip, the second I saw arc, that's the first thing I thought was horse cutter, extremely long-handled sword, so that you could learn that specific type of adaptive grip. So I consider single hand club and two-handed club to be very basics of human athleticism. I consider arc to be weapon-specific movement training. Joshua O'Neill, do I have any advice, general principles on using kettlebells for someone with hypermobile joints? You're gonna have to define hypermobile joints. Does that just mean like bendy elbows, or does that mean you're a contortionist? Because hypermobile to me means contortionist, because I trained with circus performers for a long time. How do you build up strength in hypermobile joint groups? The same way you do with everybody else. You do really need to focus on clubs quite a bit, because if you focus just on kettlebells and you have like a hypermobile spine, people will lean back into it because that's what they've been trained to do, and they will do it unconsciously. Focusing on something like a clean and press is very important, but they really need to work on single arm, because as they learn to rotate their spine, they will be unable to do hypermobile back stuff. They will have to verticalize their spine to rotate, right? Most of the programs I write are meant for people who are like either fully deconditioned or circus performers. And I've spent a lot of time figuring out how to get both people to do the correct thing with the least amount of coaching. So hypermobile joints, I don't quite know what that means. If you have hypermobile elbows, same thing. You need to add single arm club training into the program immediately, because it trains the rotation of the joint under load. And it's very hard for people to overextend their elbow when they're doing a casting pattern. Same thing is true for knees. As you rotate them, it's very hard for them to stay in hyperextension. If you trained a lot of ballerinas who over straighten their legs from years and years and years of overstretching, then you rotate about the joint. You attack it from 90 degrees and you put it into rotation coordinates of training. So if they're hyper mobile, I will pull kettlebells out entirely for the first 6 months to a year and have them do only clubs, because it's much more controllable on accident because of the rotation. They will have to return to neutral in order to do the rotation, especially as they go up in weight. Otto Dufva. I'm definitely saying that one wrong. I looked at old Q&As from your YouTube channel. Can't find it. Is it planned this way or some bug? They're all on mine. They're under live. So the tag that they're under is there's like a video label, and then there's like a live label. So they're not in the video section. They're under the live tab. And they're on mine. So there's 4 categories. Can't remember what they are because I only ever look at live and video, but look under the live tab on the top bar. So it should be video and a bunch of stuff, and one of them should be live. Everett Hardeen, 8X art question. Nope, already answered that one. Brahm X Bones, Brahm Crossbones, Brahm. I always try to figure out how I'm supposed to say these things because everybody's got really inventive names, but I know I'm getting them wrong. Question: if you pair a diet of just fruit, veg, and meat with kettlebells, mace, and clubs, would that be the most basic, efficient way to be less fat and increase muscle mass? Yes, absolutely. If you really have control over your food intake, meat and vegetables is the way to go. I know carnivore is very popular with people who have autoimmune diseases. I really like veg and meat. Like what I made today for lunch, I sat down and I got out a bunch of, I got out 1.25 pounds of ground beef, which we got from a farmer last year. We got a quarter of a cow, local, farm raised, right? Support local farmers. They deliver to you a bunch of steaks, and then everything else turns into ground meat. And then I got out a pound of like asada cut. So I took asada cut and 1.25 pounds of ground beef. I made that into a big bowl with a bunch of spices. I really went with a lot of Italian spices this time and a little bit of Cajun just to make it fun. And then what I ate for breakfast today, and I didn't have breakfast until noon because I don't eat in the morning, was an entire bag of vegetables, the whole thing, that bag that usually people eat for like a family of 4, that whole thing, and like 0.75 pounds of beef. And you mix it all up, and it's awesome. That is, to me, the fastest, easiest, cheapest, poor man way to get healthy really fast. And then I usually save fruit for at night after dinner. So I normally have 2 big meals. So I have about 8 servings of vegetables a day, 8 to 10, depending on how I'm getting them. And then about a pound of meat a day when I'm in control of my diet and I'm not traveling, and then fruit at night. I think that that is the best possible diet to get people the healthiest, the fastest. And there's a ton of different ways to do that. The vegetables that are available in your area or your economic class, how you get vegetables, right? What I like to do, oftentimes if you're traveling or whatever, you get the bag of steamable vegetables and you eat the whole bag. But I do think that that is probably the best way to get in shape the fastest. I think that kettlebells stress the most important parts of the body the fastest, for sure. I've talked about this before. Going to gyms, you see a lot of actually unhealthy people in the gym, and they're there every day. They're there 5 days a week for an hour, but because they're using machines as they have been told to do by magazines and trainers and everything else, they're never stressing their full skeletal system the way that you do with kettlebells and heavy club swinging. If you do kettlebells 2 days a week and heavy clubs 2 days a week and like mace 2 days a week and then eat meat and veg and some fruit, I do think that that's the fastest possible way to take control of your health and fitness. If you did have access to a gym, then you could do bench press twice a week and you could do your machine rows or whatever twice a week as well. But bench press doesn't have that much effect on your overall athleticism. Neither do any of those, rowing, hammer strength machines. A rowing machine does. But if you were to do a rowing machine, you should definitely do it in conjunction with kettlebells. If you do kettlebells, then you can use a rowing machine or a ski erg, no problem. If you don't, then rowing machine and ski erg will kill you for almost ever. I hope I answered that question to your satisfaction. Yeah, if you do single arm, there's no way to get out of kettlebell and club training, right? They are what you would call training for hard gainers, right? So there used to be what you would call hard gainer programs in the gym, and what were they? They were deadlift and squat, because there was no way out. You worked the most muscle mass, and therefore you were most likely to get result from it. It was for people who didn't get results from doing, more pure bodybuilding, doing arm days and doing shoulder days and whatever. If people weren't getting the results that they wanted, you put them on a deadlift program and you have them deadlift for an hour twice a week, right? And then squat for an hour twice a week. Really hard to actually build up to get to that level to do, which is why most people never did it. And then you would do your chest press and your shoulders 2 other days a week, and you wrote a 6-day-a-week program like that always worked. Think of our deadlift program as a swing program, right? And we start with a 10-minute swing program, and we build out, and we get to a 15, a 20, and a 30-minute swing program. Those are hard gainer programs. There's no way out of those programs. Clean and press is a hard gainer program. You're using every muscle in your body. There's no way out of it. The 2-handed mill squat program, there's no way out of it. You will work every muscle in your body. So if you do those things and you eat your meat, your veg, and your fruit, you will definitely get what you were looking for out of training. It's impossible to fail if you do the math on your weights and then you eat the food correctly. Greetings from Tel Aviv. Greetings, Tel Aviv. I'll be in you next May. That's a joke. It's a joke, guys. It's a funny joke. What is that joke from? I can't remember where that joke is from. It's from some comedy special. Aisha Small, question, 2-handed mill squat progression. What are good alternatives if you can't deep squat with feet flat on the ground yet? Squat wedges, box squat, step back lunge. Box squat. Box squat is always the preferred one first. Squat wedges, we tend to avoid. If people cannot do a flat foot squat, we never do squat wedges because you're not helping the problem. You're just stepping around the problem. Step back lunge is fantastic, and that is in the upcoming 7 levels of 2-handed club training. But box squat, limit the height of your squat. Squat down, lean back, pick your feet up off of the ground, rock forward, put your heels on the ground, stand all the way up. Every week, take an inch off of that box height until you get down lower and lower. This is something that we work on in our club and mace seminars. Everybody thinks that they're squatting down. The last seminar we did, which was in September, right? Everybody looked real nervous when we got to the squat section because we spent a bunch of time, I think, on the beginning of Saturday morning working on squat and getting people lower and lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. Usually, ladies who are more in shape will eventually be able to squat down all the way until their tailbone touches the ground, verticalize their spine, then rock forward from there. That is the range of motion we're looking for. Usually men are a little bit more limited than that, and they get about 2 inches off of the ground, but we want to get lower and lower and lower and lean back until our spine is vertical. That's one of the reasons we squat the way we squat in the squat program with the club vertical, 2 hands on, elbows inside the knees, elbows push out, knees squeeze in, is to get people lower and lower and lower in their squat. But box squat is the most important alternative in picking the feet up because it forces the core on. You squat down to the box, you lean back, you pick the feet up, the core has to come on to keep you from falling over. The heavier the weight, the lower the box, the more the core comes on, the better you get at squats in general. It also helps people when people rock forward to help stretch and loaded stretch the front of their ankle, which is oftentimes a problem for why people can't get down low in their squats. Sun's out. Man, it was really overcast earlier. It is not overcast now. It's overcast when I was out working in the field. It is not overcast anymore. Let's find another question. Really hammering through these questions today. I think I'm talking too fast. I should probably slow this way down. Randy Allen, will the two-handed club program you spoke of be similar to the one you did previously with BJJ Fanatics? Yeah, it's just about 7 levels more at 8 exercises per level. So the BJJ Fanatics one is the easy one. It's 5 exercises, 3 levels. So now make that's 15. Now 7 times 8 is what, 56? So make that program nearly 4 times bigger than the one that currently exists. So they're all meant to line up eventually into a 10-level system so that people can really, really, really get everything out of the clubs that they have. Or you can stick with the basic one and just jack it up and get to 80 pounds, which would also be awesome. The equipment still doesn't really exist for that, but we're always working to get that equipment because I want us all to get up to that mill squat program at 80 pounds because that was the weight that the Great Gamma used, was an 80-pound club. So I'm trying to get us all back up to that guy's level. And if I have to beg, cajole, and scream to get that equipment made, I will continue to work on that forever because I want us all to get up to the level of what people could do 100 years ago. We should all be able to do what people could do 100 years ago. We shouldn't stop at half of what they could do. We should get back to what they could do. And if I've never made it that far because the equipment never existed, I made custom clubs up to 60, and I got to tell you what, you'll put on some crazy muscle in a short period of time getting up to a 60-pound club. So I don't know what will happen when we all get up to 80 and we run that program all the way up to 80, and we should probably run a little bit above it into the 90-pound range because we need 80 to not be the hardest thing we've ever done. But I would love to see smooth progression with weights and all that stuff coming up to the 100-pound range. I've been talking with ADEX about that for years now. The problem right now is that the cost of steel is insane to make those monstrous add-on kits. Basically, you're taking a giant chunk of steel and machining out the center core and the outside of it to get it to weight so that we can stack it on there so that we can get up towards our 80-pound club. They made one 100-pound club, but it was $1,500 just in the steel. So it would cost like $3,000 to manufacture between the steel cost and the machining cost. And so we're trying to find a way to make that economical, and we're going to keep working on it until we get there because that's what I want to do. I want us all to be monsters, and I want everybody to be that strong. So we're going to keep doing it, and we've added all the training. So if you do all 10 levels and you start and you run, if you could do the whole program with 80, I don't know what you would look like. I have no clue what people would look like. It's no idea. Coding Monkey. I'm not sure if this is a question or just a comment. How to survive jiu-jitsu and avoid injury. Great question. People have been asking that question for at least 3,000 years that we know about, but probably at least 7,000 years. How do you survive jiu-jitsu? Swing clubs. Swing clubs, go up in weight. How to avoid injury? Do your jiu-jitsu specific mobility training. That would be all of your shin box family of movements, your shin glides, your hip snaps, your kneeling hip snaps. And then you have your entire rolling series that you need to be good at, your kneeling, same side shoulder roll, your half kneeling, same side shoulder roll, your standing shoulder roll, your walking, your alternating shoulder rolls, all that stuff. That's how you survive jiu-jitsu. And then cool down at the end of every jiu-jitsu session, everyone, even though nobody ever wants to do it. You should all do it if you really wanted to live. And you should probably put in 20 minutes. The harder you roll, the longer your cool down should be. And you should probably be holding your cool downs for at least 3 minutes. Definitely starting with Sphinx, going to forward fold. Definitely need to be doing plow if you're doing jiu-jitsu, because that's the stack position, right? You need to be doing your shin box. You need to be doing your pigeon on each side and your hip flexor, right? There's 30 minutes of stretching at the end of every jiu-jitsu class. If you want to survive jiu-jitsu, you need to be doing your clubs at a different time of day. So you would wake up, do your club training, your 8 minutes of warm up, your club training, 20 to 32 minutes, right? You would do a short cool down, probably 10 minutes, right? Then you would go to jiu-jitsu. You should get there early, and you should do a 15-minute warm-up. It would be neck, shoulder, shin box, advancing shin box, pigeon crawls. Then you would do your jiu-jitsu class, then you would do your cool down. If you want to survive jiu-jitsu, you treat it like a professional sport. Though if you want to be a professional athlete, you focus on your warm-up and your cool down. The more cool down, the harder you train, the more cool down you do. That's how you survive jiu-jitsu, especially as you age. Michael Pomerlau. He says, there are so many steel mace coach certifications. What do you think about them? I feel that your channel is a certification. Mine is meant to be a certification. My channel is meant to be enough information for you to be the best professional coach in your state. For the most part, I think that education is severely lacking, or at least the important parts in training. If you work at a big box gym and they have you do ACE, whatever that thing is, that is functionally useless as a training certification. I think that the best training certifications used to be RKC. I have no idea what they are now. Now they're Strong First. The problem with something like that is that they're so focused on a very specific mentality that it's hard, because they don't really want you to be doing mace. They want you to be doing heavy kettlebell. But does everybody need to be doing heavy kettlebell? I don't think so. I think people probably need to be doing intermediate kettlebell for longer periods of time, because kettlebelling is really endurance weightlifting. I think that the best mace one out there that I've seen currently is the one that I work for, which is Summer Huntington's FlowShala one, because what they're doing is training people how to coach. Training people how to coach is very important. It's not just, can you do the stuff, which a lot of mace certifications I think are just, can you do the pretty thing. If you're going to be a mace certified instructor, the most important thing is what you deliver to your clients, right? All of my training that I put out is a roadmap to being the best coach in the world. If you get anybody and you put them into the swing program, if you worked at a big box gym like Gold's Gym and you saw somebody 4 days a week and you did the swing program for 10 minutes and you did the clean and press program for whatever your 15, 20 minutes, you could do whatever you wanted for the rest of the time and you would be a genius. And absolutely everybody would get what they paid for. So you could do swings, you could do warm up for 8 minutes, 2-minute transmission, do a swing program. Now you're at 20 minutes. You have 30 more minutes. You could just have them do pec deck for the next 30 minutes and it would be great. You do the same thing. You could have clean and press 2 days a week, and then you could have them do back and pull-ups and every pull-up machine after that the rest of the week. And you'd be a genius. People would think that you were the best trainer in the world because you would actually be helping people. I'm just not familiar with all of the mace certifications, so I can't speak to them. But my question is, how much do they talk about coaching technique in those certifications? How much do they talk about why you're doing things and how you would communicate it and what the point is of training? I was talking to a trainer who had come in from Europe, our last certification, and he was having a lot of trouble with client retention. And I asked me what your program is. He's like, well, we do 30 minutes of warm up. And I said, you already failed. You already failed, right? No client wants to come in and do 30 minutes of warm up. You have to pick, as a trainer, 8 minutes of warm up and a 2 minute transition. And that warm up can change every day, but it has to focus on certain things, right? Neck, shoulder, spine, hip. It has to do those things, right? So your job as a trainer is to really be time efficient and bring value to everyone that you train. I don't know if other MACE certifications are doing that. If people want to give me a list of MACE certifications, I'll go take all of them, and then I'll tell you what I think about them. Currently, I haven't taken any of them because I just haven't, I don't know. I don't know which ones to take. I've taken some MACE seminars, and, you know, I instantly said in my head, this is not how I would teach it, but that's just me, right? I am a super nerd, right? There are some MACE seminars that are definitely directed at training very good athletes. None of my stuff is designed that way. All of my stuff is designed for people who don't know what they're doing, who absolutely need benefit, and who are living in the middle of nowhere with a tractor and an old horse trailer, right? So yeah, the real question is, are those certifications training you to be a coach, or are they training you in a bunch of fancy movements? And I don't know because I haven't taken them. So somebody will have to tell me what they think about these things. Roma Glustin. Are the London, Thailand, Italy seminars oriented at folks who are already proficient with heavy clubs? Yes, right? You're never proficient with heavy clubs, right? Well, you can be. This is a question from Roma Gluskin. I don't know if that's a real name. Sounds made up, but it's probably real. I don't know anything about these names. Yeah, because you are not proficient at staff. I guarantee you, you are not proficient at staff. I guarantee you are not proficient at staff, right? We're teaching those seminars as staff, heavy club, and mace. If you're already really good at the middle part, that's fine. You are not good at the staff part. Nobody has ever walked in and been good at the staff part because the staff part is crazy. I've had world wushu champions walk in who are staff champions and not be good at the staff part because we're training very specific things that I want people to learn. If you already know heavy club, great. That just means that it's going to become more survivable for you in the long run. But you are going to, nobody sits out any part of my seminar. Everybody does everything. Everybody moves together. Everybody's on the clock because we are all learning to improve together. If you're proficient with a heavy club, I want to see 30 pounds, 10 sets of 10 mill, 10 sets of 10 reverse mill, under 7 minutes and 10 seconds for each one. That's the only way I will consider somebody proficient in heavy club swinging. The seminars are designed for everybody of every level. We put a lot of thought into this. If you're good at one thing, you're not going to be good at something else. If you're proficient at clubs, then you're going to learn what you would pick, what club exercise for what thing, what makes clubs different and more usable than other things. One of the things that we talk about a lot is all the things that clubs do that other things don't do, because I don't want to, I find that a lot of other seminars treat clubs like their barbell, and they start training from a barbell perspective, and then they never get to the part that is really unique about clubs. We do it the opposite way. We start with the things that clubs do that nothing else does, and then we work backwards from there until you turn it back into barbell. But yes, excellent question. Anybody should come to those seminars because I guarantee you're going to learn something. If nothing else, you're going to learn that you don't like the way I teach. That's never happened, but I suppose it could happen. Let me find another one. Hi from Milano. Milano, Italy. Hello, Milano. What a lovely area. Fantastic, beautiful area. Deconditioned question. For a single arm club, inside circle, outside circle, plus shield cast, what warm-ups, cool downs do you suggest? All the ones that I have. So you should definitely, I put out the free 3-minute neck thing. It's been on YouTube for years. You should definitely warm up your neck. There's a shoulder warm-up video as well. You should definitely do that. For the most part, people who are really deconditioned will only survive neck and shoulder warm-ups because they're not going to be able to do the hip mobility warm-up series yet. That's the point. So neck mobility for sure, the shoulder mobility series for sure. And then the cool downs, Sphinx. If you can do nothing else, you do Sphinx, and then you start doing forward fold, where you're tailbone against the wall. I'll see if I can't turn that into a video this week. Do I have some place I can shoot that? Shoot it in the barn. I'll clean out a stall, strip a stall, do it in there. KD, question, can I please make a YouTube time following long video of your 3-minute neck mobility that we can share with family and friends? Okay, so take the video and just put it on a clock. Sure, I can do that. Yeah. 16 and 24 kettlebell arms only workout. That's not how kettlebells work. Mark Bradley, 16 and 24 kilogram kettlebell arms workout only. That's not how kettlebells work. A clean is not a bicep curl. You do a clean, right? And you do a press, right? There's no tricep or bicep workout with kettlebells. You can do that, but if you want stronger arms, grab a club. Kettlebells works on your clean and press, your straight line, curve linear movements, your swing, your clean and press, your squat pattern. Think of those as being your fundamental things, right? And then your get up off the ground, and then your snatch, right? If you want arms, grab a club, do the mill squat program. It's all arms. It's all arms. Start with a 15, get to a 25. You'll have arms. There's no way out of it. Get to a 45. You'll have arms. There's no way out of it. Kettlebells are not great for biceps. They're very good for triceps, and that's called the clean and press program. The side effect of doing the clean and press program is you're going to get legs, you're going to get glutes, you're going to get abs, you're going to get cross body stabilization, and you're going to get cardio. Your triceps will get better from that. But if you want arms, go club. Mill squat program. Withered Serenity. Sorry, I was trying to read that. With Red Serenity. With Withered Serenity. That's the name of this. This is the handle of this questioner. Is a mill squat program with a 45-pound club a good standard for two-handed heavy club proficiency? Yes, absolutely. You can do inside circles, outside circles, pendulums, pullovers, shield cast, mill prep, and reverse mill. Yes, 100%. If you can do it with a 45, your two-handed club proficiency is very good. Excellent. Yes, 100%. Almost every program I write is a proficiency program. So yes, Withered Serenity, if you get to the 45-pound club with the mill squat program, you're doing very, very good. Side effect is you will definitely have arms, you will definitely have abs, you will definitely have glutes. There's no way out of it for that at all. Combine that with clean and press, and you're doing great. Brahm X Bone says, I crushed the question. Very happy to help. I forgot what the question is at this point. I've answered so many questions at this point. I have to go back and watch these afterwards to actually see what the questions were, because I just roll on like pure flow state answering questions on these things. Ankle mobility, most specifically to increase dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, dorsiflexion, right? Dorsiflexion? I always get these two mixed up. Plantar flexion, dorsiflexion. Old ankle injuries, basic runner stretches don't help. Thank you. This is a question for Gordon Ray. Yeah, I hate basic runner stretches. I think that they're ridiculous and almost never help. If you really want like running training, like there's a whole series of like running drills that you should do, and they come from track. The problem is track guys never condense that down into a time controlled method. I worked with my friend who is a Team Great Britain sprinter for a little bit and tried to get her to condense her 4-hour running thing down into a 30-minute thing. We never finished it, but next time I get to England, maybe we'll finish that. For the most part, if you want to work on your ankles, one of the things you do is you work on your single arm club program, and then you repeat it on inclines. So you learn to stand on inclines, and you start your training over with inside circle, outside circle, and shield cast, because this is very important. You point your feet straight ahead for this, otherwise you will definitely mess yourself up. You put your foot on that incline, and then your ankle bones are already in position. Then as you swing the club, the bones in your ankle will do this, and you will restore a ton of mobility that people lose from injuries from running and from European football, soccer as we call it in America, things like that. And you really get it by standing still and moving everything else. One of the things we always come back to is that inside circle, outside circle, and shield cast. And then if people have specific problems, we will change the positions of the legs or the ankles in order to solve that problem. That's something that I was just doing this morning and that I will do again tonight. I've been on an extended series of adventures. That's why my videos have suffered for the last like 2 months. But what I just did was ride a motorcycle from like Los Angeles to Salida, Colorado. And then I drove my truck with the motorcycle in the back here to Ohio. And so when you're doing all that and you're sitting on a motorcycle for that long, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, doing 90 miles per hour, screaming across the desert, screaming into the void, as we should all be doing, your ankles do get really tight. So anytime I come back from something like that, a motorcycle trip, I will do the incline club training, and I will do it every day for 2 weeks. And I'll do a minimum of 10 minutes a day, but I like to push it into the 20-minute, 30-minute range, which is really hard for most people, but it's something that I've trained up to over a long period of time. But training all your basics over again on that incline when you've been in some type of locked ankle position for a long period of time, because it does restore the mobility to your ankles very quickly. And your ankles hurt, and my knees hurt, right? Because I have knee surgeries and everything else. So just doing that restores the length of my calves, rotates everything, and restores the length of my hamstrings as they rotate as well in those positions. But that is considered pretty advanced for most people. Excellent, guys. Maul always asks questions, good questions. You want everyone Superman strong or Goku strong? Well, I don't want them that strong because it's impossible to be that strong. Seriously, do you believe as we as a species can get to these levels 7 million years in space? Not quite sure what that means, but do I think that people, if we leave humanity alone for 7 million years and we continue to advance, do you think that we will get Superman strong or Goku strong? I think we can certainly get Spider-Man strong within the next 100 years through genetic engineering, but currently that seems like a very bad plan because people do not seem to be handling genetic engineering stuff very well. But I do think it's possible for sure to alter the genome of humans to do that. I think it'll probably be like cyberpunk CRISPR guys who will end up doing that first. But it's going to take a lot of experimentation. I am absolutely positive somebody out there is trying to create super soldiers right now. And I think, Captain America is probably first Superman. I don't think we'll ever be able to defy gravity like that or Goku like gravity like that. I just don't see how that's physically possible. But I think, X-Men powers are a lot more realistic. I thought they were always more realistic. I think that we'll probably get, Captain America strong first, because Captain America is really only as strong as 8 men or something like that. I think once we get that strong, we'll move a lot faster. I think that would require us to need to have stronger bones. Here's all kinds of questions. We can think about this. I was a biochemical engineer, so I thought about this stuff all the time because that's kind of the reason I got to be a biochemical engineer. I read Jurassic Park when I was in fourth grade, and I instantly wanted to bring back de-extinct dinosaurs. And then I went to USC, and then I found out that we still weren't ready to de-extinct dinosaurs, so I thought I would wait 10 years and then go back for a master's program, and we're still not there. I'm waiting for somebody to de-extinct one thing, and then I'm going to go back. But, just give us woolly mammoths and woolly rhinos. Come on, guys. How hard is it? Apparently very hard. I thought once we had Dolly the sheep cloned, that we were well on our way and we would de-extinct mammoths within 5 years of that time. And then I thought that when we started using spider silk, genetically engineering spiders to produce more spider silk so that we could harvest spider silk, so that we could make super strong materials. Thus far, that still hasn't bled out into the real world. Maybe the military has it, but it still hasn't happened. So do I think we'll get Superman Goku strong? I don't think so. Maybe in 7 million years, but at that point, I don't think we'll look anything like this. I think that there's a lot of other things that'll happen first. I think we'll evolve into energy long before then. That's more of a Stargate idea at that point, where we'll all ascend and turn into energy. And if anybody watched my favorite show, Star Trek Lower Decks, and I think it's season 1 or 2, where somebody accidentally ascends and it's a whole burning thing. It's hilarious. Everybody watch Star Trek Lower Decks. Fantastic show. If you are a true nerd, you will love that show. Club question from Peter Bruik. I am always saying this name wrong. He always tells me how to say it, and I always misremember how to say it every time. When training single arm or two-handed, I assume that's club, my wife experiences lower back pain after. I wash her, but I don't see anything wrong. Can you name the most common mistakes so I know what to look for? It's all core firing. That definitely sounds like core firing. The easiest way to solve that problem is 1, drop weight. Go down in weight and repeat 1 or 2 weights down and start that cycle over. Let her be overly strong, let it seem easy to her, and then let her work on her technique, and then walk it back up. And add in kettlebell clean and press 2 days a week. So we can always drop down in weight. The problem that people have with clubs is that they will always find a tendon or a ligament somewhere in their body which is not up to the level of everything else. So you drop weight on the whole system and you let the whole body recover, and then you build up to try to re-strengthen that one weak link in the system. And then we usually, if they're weak with kettlebells, we go to clubs. If their back hurts with clubs, we go to kettlebells. We always use these two things back and forth for a reason, because they will strengthen what the other one doesn't. They will change the line in the vector of force production, so you can accidentally solve the problem without a degree in physical therapy. Usually just by doing one of those two things, dropping weight and changing to another program, with another apparatus, you tend to solve the program. You give it more time to catch up, and then you build back up. And you can drop weight again, and you can drop weight again. You could go up another weight above what you have now. If the back hurts, then you would drop down 2 weights, build back up. Go up again, drop down 2 weights, go up. And you would allow the body to catch up. People have a lot of injuries, and they have a lot of specific adaptations to impose demand based on the jobs that they've done in their life. Many people who work in an office will rotate very slightly between their writing desk and their computer screen. So you'll see a lot of people have one thing in their lower back that is overly shortened. Usually it's on the right side, or everybody I ever trained, it was on the right side, because they rotated very slightly to their right to look at their computer screen and then back to their other computer screen. And they would do this one direction all the time, and it made one thing in their back not the same as everything else. And so we always had to either drop weight, repeat a cycle, and jump apparatus to solve that problem. I hope I answered your question there. Rohan Thukral. Rohan Thukral. Sounds like a Lord of the Rings name. Rohan. Great name. Awesome name. He broke his wrist. It's now very stiff after the cast came off. How long should he wait before he start doing kettlebells again? Well, you should wait till after your physical therapy, and you should definitely do clubs first. If you haven't done clubs, you need to get a Wildman club, and you need to run very light cycles. Restoring the mobility of your wrist is very important. Kettlebells are not great at restoring the total mobility of your wrist. They're great at traction, but if something is off in the way your wrist works and you're catching weird, you're going to beat it up. Clubs will restore the mobility of your wrist while re-strengthening it at the same time. Judson Kelly is from Vegas. This is just a statement. Sorry, guys. Says, thank you for the library of videos and technical guides. He got his first kettlebell a couple of weeks ago and is having a blast. Excellent. Kettlebells are amazing. Keep going. You can never get done with kettlebells. I am always amazed when I meet somebody and they go, I got a kettlebell and I got super bored. I put it away. I'm like, what were you doing? And they're like, oh, swings. I was like, literally, you missed 1,000% of what you should have done with it. If you get bored with a kettlebell, you need to look at it again. That's why I try to make all these videos. I try to give people ideas. If you get one new idea, you can accidentally discover a whole new section of kettlebell training, and you can keep going forever and ever and ever. That is the point. You can do it forever. Frederico Spinale Salmito. Oof, that's a lot of S's for somebody with a lisp like me. New nerd math video on how to start training for GS. GS is Gear Voice Sport or Kettlebell Sport. Sure. Gear Voice Sport, I always tell people you do all of your other basics first. I see a lot of people get hurt because they try to start with Gear Voice Sport and they don't cross train. So I tend to tell people hard style for 3 years, right? Build up your base of support, super solid, two-handed club, single arm club, then you will guarantee survive Gear Voice Sport. The main problem that people have with Gear Voice Sport, if they start without doing all the other prep work first, is they end up with a lot of spine issues. Because Gear Voice Sport, instead of moving the bell around their body, they move their body around the bell. And that can have varying levels of success depending on their previous athletic training. Real good Gear Voice Sport guys will wrap their entire body around the bell, and they'll wrap it around closed one way and open the other way. But they need to have very strong joints. Gear Voice Sport guys who start in Eastern Europe start at a much younger age, so they have years of adaptation with light weights before they start trying to crank away the really heavy weights. They treat it like ballet. They start at a young age. They train an hour a day, 5-6 days a week or longer, and they build up their spine to support the specific thing. People in the West do not have the benefit of that training, so we have to change the way we train, usually to accommodate ourselves on that. Lots of cross-body stabilization, lots of speed, lots of double bounce, lots of VMO, tons of crazy core stuff. If you're training for Gear Voice Sport, the first thing you should definitely do is two-hand club program at least 2 days a week. It will solve 90% of your problems on accident, and you can do your Gear Voice Sport 5 days a week and your clubs 2 days a week, and it will work out really, really well on accident. But yeah, I should probably make a nerd math video on Gear Voice Sport or how I do it. But in all honesty, my knowledge is probably out of date now because I took Valerie Fedorenko's instructor classes way back in, 07, 08. I'm sure that that has changed quite a bit by now because the numbers that people are putting up now are bonkers. I watch Gear Voice Sport guys all the time, and they are truly superhuman. Like they're the Captain Americas now. Like those guys are so strong. And if you really got a good GS guy and got him into club training, I just don't know what would happen. I think that that is to me, I can't see a better basic weight training idea than that. And that's what I'm eventually trying to build into a 10-year program. We get real nerdy on this stuff. Andrew Smith, what is a common mistake when cleaning a kettlebell which results in the handle being 90 degrees, not 45 degrees across the palm? I'm struggling with my left side specifically. It's just a lack of experience. It's not any one thing you can point to. There is a moment when you do a clean when the kettlebell floats inside your hand. And it has everything to do with you moving your hand to the correct spot. That is thousands and thousands and thousands of reps. It's just like boxing, it's just like ballet, it's just like aerial. You can be doing everything technically correct and still not be in the right spot because it's a neurological adaptation to efficiency over time. So you just have to get to the catch, adjust it, go down, get to the catch, adjust it, and go down. I could say dip the smallest part of your hand underneath a little bit more when the kettlebell floats. But what does that really mean to people? If they're not already doing it, then that coaching cue doesn't mean anything. The same way a ballerina telling me to drive harder out through the arch of my foot forward at a 45-degree angle when I drive up for a leg extension doesn't mean anything to me because I can't physically do it. If you can't physically do the thing, then it's really hard to provide those micro coaching cues. The easiest way to do it is to get to the clean, adjust the bell, do the clean, adjust the bell, do the clean. So you're training the negative. And you're letting your body know what the correct end position is by adjusting it every time. Adjust it every time. I know it's not a satisfying answer. It's not really a great answer for that. The great answer for that is adjust it every time. Change the position of your clean, move it to half kneeling position, do your clean and press, run your programs over and over and over again. Over time, your body will take out the middle piece that it's doing wrong. If your catch is wrong on one side and right on the other side, then you have to find the thing that you have to fix. But without being there and seeing it, I can't tell you what to fix. I know that's annoying. People who are doing something wrong don't know they're doing something wrong. They all think that they're doing something right because they're unaware of what they're doing wrong. And a lot of the point of coaching is for somebody to point at it and say, that's wrong. And you'll say, no, it's not. It is. That's the point. You have to trust your coach. You have to be coachable, which is really hard for a lot of people to do because they think that they're right. And so here's the thing. A lot of coaches are wrong. So it's always a toss-up. That's a toss-up. Like there are only certain coaches that I will listen to because they're the only ones that I believe will tell me a true thing. There are a lot of coaches out there who say stuff because they want something to say, not because they're right, because they want to say something. That is the difference between a good coach and a bad coach. A good coach will tell you what you need to know. A bad coach will manipulate you into continuing to come because you're not good. You see this all the time in the aerial world. That's why I'm not popular in the aerial world, is because aerial coaches oftentimes don't want their clients to get good because they don't want their clients to take jobs away from them. So they keep their clients at a low level forever and they just beat them up emotionally and they just kick the shit out of them forever because they're not actually trying to make them good. So these are always questions you have to ask in coaching. The point of my channel and the point of these Q&As and everything is that everybody who watches my channel long enough will be able to discern good coaching from bad coaching and good information from bad information just on their own. And then they will be able to make informed choices about who they want to give money to or what they want to pursue based on that knowledge, right? You'll be able to tell if an Olympic coach is good, Olympic lifting coach is good. After watching this channel for long enough, you'll be able to tell. You'll just be able to tell. Same thing with everything. You'll walk into a martial arts school, you'll leave in 5 minutes because you're like, that coaching is bullshit, and you'll figure it out really, really fast. So I'm trying to train people how to think as much as I'm trying to train them specifically what to do. We're training them what to do so that we can train them how to think. So yeah, how do you adjust your wrist? It's really hard to tell without actually being there and without actually seeing it. Sorry, my apologies. Andrew Smith. That was a long answer to your question. I've built a training plan with your idea of training grid from the 3 years programming from Denis Vasilev. I believe Denis Vasilev is one of the best dudes in the world now, right? I'm thinking, yeah, no, he's the best dude in the world. I love watching that guy. The guy's poetry in motion. Maybe you should take a look at his channel. Lots of great info. I'd love to. I'll put it all on my list of things to do. My huge, unending, god-awful list of things to do. I do love to watch that guy. I really want to get into his training at some point. Part of the reason that I started doing a lot more long cycle was so that I would, if I work through long cycle for a year, year and a half, I will know what questions to ask and I will be able to understand the coaching that he needs to give. Something that I've learned that is very important is a lot of pre-training helps, right? The more you've worked on understanding a concept for yourself, the better the questions you can ask, the faster you can progress when you actually ask those questions, right? And that applies to everything. It can apply to working on dirt bikes, right? Rip your dirt bike apart, put it back together, right? Then you actually can understand intelligent questions about dirt bikes, right? Same thing with horses. Go ride a horse, then you can actually understand dressage at some point. Devil Monkey question. Whoa, somebody just gave me a huge tip. Thanks, guys. Seabaz. Thank you very much, Seabaz. Your generosity is very great. Can you talk about your process method that you use to break down complex movements into fundamental movement patterns? Yeah. I look at anything and I try to break it down into root pieces, and then I figure out, and then I try to teach it to somebody and I see if they can understand it. And if I need to break it down more, then I need to break it down more. If I need to break it down less, I break it down less. You can break everything down into a billion pieces. Oftentimes, what you're really trying to coach is the beginning and the end point, and then usually the middle comes for free. I got that, who did I get that from? Coach Steph Laff. Steph Laff used to be a head coach at Sports Club LA in Beverly Hills, right? I taught her kettlebells. She's a much better coach than me. She taught me more about coaching. That must have been 10, 15 years ago. Well, what is the bottom supposed to look like? What is the top supposed to look like? And then what's the most efficient path through the middle? It tends to be how I break it down. And I break different things down in different ways. I break aerial down differently than I would break down fighting. I break down weapons in a different way than I would break down something like wrestling. But that's really where coaching comes in and practicing. If you practice a bunch of my programs, you will learn on accident how to break down complex movement patterns. That's kind of the point I'm subtly trying to teach everybody. Yeah, I don't, beginning and the end, middle is free. And then I can break it down. If it's not understood, then I'll find another step in the middle to add. Yes, Devil Monkey, I'm happy you are doing heavy club training and mace training. Thank you very much. The more club and mace people we create, I think the better the overall health of the planet, because they are simple and they definitely work, right? There's no way, if you teach somebody heavy club and mace training in a logical, progressive way, there's no way you can fail to make them a better athlete and improve the quality of their life, which is really the point. Who are some good coaches I've worked with in the Bay Area? God, man, there was that guy, he was fantastic up there. His gym closed during COVID though. I'm having a really hard time with names lately because I've traveled so much in the last 2 years. You're only supposed to be able to know like 150 people at one time. And as I add new people, I push out the names of people that I used to know. Also, I've never been great with names, very great with faces, terrible with names. I'll think about it. What was that guy's name? He was good. I met him like 12 years ago at a seminar, and he was very, very good then, and he just kept good. He was awesome. Consistent, great coaching. Man, what was that? What was the name of that gym? So many gyms disappeared during COVID. It was crazy. We'll come back to that. I'll have to think about that. I can't remember it at all. I could find it on a map, but I could not tell you what the name of that gym was anymore. It's been 90 minutes, guys. We've done an hour and a half, as usual, again. Let's do one more question. We'll do one more real quick. Approximate angle for the inclined plane, I think 20 degrees. For the inclined plane for the ankle mobility, I think I used 20 degrees, 25 degrees. Not a lot. 45 degrees would be crazy. Think about half of 45 degrees. So think about 20 degrees, 25 degrees. One more here. Hot Rod Lincoln, great name, Hot Rod Lincoln. What is the benefit of getting a thicker handle on a club? I'm considering purchasing the 8X adjustable club, but I'm not sure which handle size to choose. I mean, I would tell you to choose the Wildman handle, obviously, or the fat handle. It's the way that your hand closes. And that's really an experience thing. Some handles are too thin, some handles are too thick. 2 inches, 2-inch diameter, too big, right? For almost everybody. Although you would be monstrously strong if you could actually do that. And you'll see guys put fat grips or super fat grip barbells just for that reason, to get up to a 2-inch grip on things. I think that 1.4, 1.5 is about ideal for the majority of the population. I think that some really small 5'2" females might use the 1.25s. I don't like the 1 inches. I don't even like the 1 inch for weapons, staffs, or anything like that. But that's just me. That's just me. The 1 inch is the standard for competition. It's about the way you close your hand, whether you're closing your hand like this or you're closing your hand like this. I prefer a larger diameter handle. So I would tell you, like, what's the benefit of it? The bigger around it is, the harder it is on your grip. And there's a fine line in the middle there between too big to get your hand around so you can actually focus on other things, and enough that you can close your thumb over the top of your finger. This is something that's done in kettlebell grip, where you will grab the kettlebell and you will squeeze over the top, or you will do the grip the other way, fingers over the top of the thumb. Which one's barbell? Is that barbell? Is that kettlebell? I can't tell unless I pick them up. But there's a locking your hand grip, where you're trying to get your pointer finger, your index finger, and your thumb to interact in a specific way. So that diameter has to be in that range in order for that to work. And different people do different things. Like I think real competition kettlebells are 33 millimeters, and they put a bunch of science into that, right? I like the 35 millimeters. I like them a little bit bigger because my hands are a little bit bigger. I don't know, I'm 6'2", but I really don't have huge hands. They're like extra large gloves. They're not huge. If you were even bigger, if you were 7'2" or something, I think you would want your handles to be even bigger. You'd probably want your club handle to be in the 1.75 range. So that it would be all about how your hand interacts and closes. Not the best answer on the fly on that one. Bigger handle, harder on the grip. If it gets too big and you can't overlock your fingers, it's probably too big for most people, and you're gonna end up fragging your hands before everything else. The side effect is, if you did a whole training program like that, you'd get incredibly strong hands. The stronger your hands, the better you would be. The example that I always use about club weight, the great Gamma lifted an 80-pound club, and he would do 1,000 shield casts or gamma casts a day. Think about a shield cast as being around opposite side of the head, and think about, but that would be 2-hand, and think about gamma cast as being like a 10-2 in mace. And he had 2-inch grip on his handle. So eventually, I would like a 2-inch handled 80-pound club. But it's going to take a long time to get to that, right? You're thinking a lifetime of training to get to the point where you could do 100 reps with something like that, probably. Or, a lot of training without ripping your shoulders out or ripping your spine in half. Yeah, I'm going to come back to that question. I don't feel like I answered that great, but we'll come back to it at some point. Great talk, everybody. It's been 95 minutes. We're going to sign this out. If I didn't get to your question, I apologize. Come back, ask these questions again. The more questions I answer, the more answers you get, the better I get at thinking about them and giving you answers in a short period of time. And your questions get better and better and better over time. And your questions force me to think about things in a different way. So I get better as a coach, you get better as a coachee, as a future trainer. I'm gonna call you guys future trainers and athletes, because everybody who watches this channel has the capacity to go out and be a professional trainer after about 6 months and be better than anybody in your state probably, especially about 30 states. There are some states where it's gonna be hard pressed, but for the most part, we're trying to get as much knowledge to as many people in the shortest period of time and do it all in the economical way. So thanks, future athletes, and come back next time, and we will continue to do this again next week. Friday again next week, and we will